Alright, here we are again. Scott Harris, the second of my videos documenting my comic collection for insurance purposes, just so I can prove I actually own these things. I'm not some random a-hole, which of course I still may be. But anyway, here we are, Avengers 51 to 100, the greatest run of superhero comics of all time. I happen to own some very nice copies of most of these. Not super high grade, but higher grade. Probably most of them are in 6.0 to 7.5 range, with some higher. Starting off right here with Avengers 51, for me one of the turning points in the series, as John Buscema's art takes a giant leap forward. We're starting with this great cover, and then things really take off story-wise. I think the new art style from Buscema, the more assured art, inspired writer Roy Thomas to really kick things up a notch. Here's where the Black Panther joins, nice yellow cover. Here we have a crossover between the Avengers and the X-Men, number 53. Still not my favorite style of cover, but whatever. Here we have 54, all-time classic, two-parter with the Masters of Evil. This issue we get a first glimpse of character that would be fully revealed here in issue 55, namely Ultron. It's Ultron's first full appearance here. This is one of the few that I have that's actually kind of lower grade. Here's 56. This is the last of the batch of the big purchase that I mentioned in my last video. I bought 17 through 56 all at once from a mail order catalog. It's also a great story that leads right into special number 2. Here we have a nice higher grade Avengers 57, first appearance of Vision, my favorite, one of my 3 favorite superheroes and 3 favorite member of the Avengers, the other 2 being Hawkeye and Captain America. This issue, like many of the higher grade issues in this run that I'll be showing you, I bought from the same guy in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, probably 87. Original owner who was selling off his collection in Boston. He had thousands of Marvels, very cheap. And most of them he bought off the stands. He read them a few times and then put them away. So a lot of them were in excellent shape, like this number 59 I got from them. His prices were amazingly cheap. If I had had another $100 or $150, I probably could have completed almost the whole run that I needed. I couldn't, but I spent most of my money filling in the gaps between 56 and 100. Here's number 60. The wedding story, where the Wasp thinks it's a good idea to marry someone that's in the middle of a nervous breakdown, having a schizophrenic episode. That did not turn out well for anybody. 61, crossover with Doctor Strange. Roy Thomas was writing at the same time. Here he is wearing his goofy superhero costume, which I liked when I was a kid, and then I started actually reading Doctor Strange. I was like, oh wait, this blows. Avengers 62, one of the first issues to really, spotlight the Black Panther solo. He appeared a couple times in Fantastic Four, of course, a couple times in Tales of Suspense before joining the Avengers. This is where he gets his first real spotlight. Here we have what I call the Clinton Barton trilogy. You got 3 issues in a row highlighting Hawkeye, who up until this point, they never even revealed what his name was. He was just a Hawkeye. Even the Black Widow, when they show scenes of them hanging out in their apartment together, she just calls him Hawkeye. Like, she doesn't even know what his name is. This issue, he ditches the Hawkeye persona and becomes the new Goliath, which again was a decision that was made in part just for graphics and sales. They thought having a big guy on the cover would sell better, which I think was the same reason they had Goliath appear on every cover between 28 and 38. So it's kind of silly to think that some major storylines came from, marketing data. But Anyway, here's 64, my copy of 64. This is where we learn Clint's name and we meet his brother, get his kind of some of his origin. And my copies of both 64 and 65 are signed by Gene Colan, who I had the pleasure of meeting back in the late 90s. Great story. Here's another great story. The second Ultron story. This issue 66, the first appearance of Adamantium in Marvel Comics. There's 67 with the classic Ultron story. Ultron becomes made of adamantium and makes him, of course, pretty damn hard to kill. That 66 also has art by Barry Windsor Smith. He also introduces the idea the Vision can phase through people in order to cause them pain and knock them out, which is like his primary move for the next 20 years. So it's a key issue, great art. Here's the last part of the storyline. This is an extremely high-grade copy, except unfortunately, the bottom staples popped, and I just can't figure out how that happened, because otherwise, this is probably a 9.2. I mean, it looks like no one's ever touched it, and yet staples blown out. I don't know. Don't get it. 69, the beginning of yet another great storyline, this time with Kang. A time travel story where introducing the Grandmaster, who challenges Kang to a game, of course, because that's what he does. And in this case, it involves the first appearance of the Squadron Sinister. This was supposed to be a crossover with an issue of Justice League of America, a secret crossover that Roy Thomas planned with the writer of that series. However, the Justice League issues, you can barely tell that it's a crossover. Like, it's so vague. They do it again later, which I'll get to. This is considered to be the first appearance of the Invaders, even though it came out 8 years before Giant Size Invaders. I'm sure, I haven't read that series yet, but I'm sure it was a retcon Roy Thomas decided to put in there. Oh yeah, remember that fight against the Avengers? So people list it as the first appearance. It's clearly not, but it's a really cool story anyway. 72, crossover with Captain Marvel. It's kind of a one-off. Also involves Nick Fury, because Nick Fury's brother is Scorpio. It's an interesting story because it ties together a lot of parts of the Marvel Universe that really otherwise have nothing to do with each other. But that Captain Marvel story does sort of set the stage in a way for his later appearances in the series. Really cool sort of relevancy story here in 73 and 74. The Sons of the Serpent come back, and there's a bunch of racism against the Black Panther. Gonna have some nice high-grade copies of these. 75, Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch finally returned to the title. They've been absent from the series since the Magneto storyline of 47 through 49. I personally did not really miss them because I'm not a fan of the Scarlet Witch. This is a two-parter that introduces Archon, who's kind of like Conan from another dimension. He would be a recurring character over the next several decades. 77, I'm a big fan of this storyline. Introduction of Cornelius Van Lunt, and who would eventually form the Zodiac. In this storyline, though, he's not in costume. He's just a really rich jerk. 78 and 79, again, some really nice higher grade copies of these. Introduces the Lethal Legion, which brings back the Swordsman, Grim Reaper, and a bunch of chumps. 80s, first appearance of Red Wolf. Like the character, I don't know why they decided, when they gave him his own series, they decided to set in the Old West. Kind of like the modern version better. I don't think the Old West version is that interesting. 81, kind of a key issue for Avengers fans. You can see on the cover, the Vision and Scarlet Witch are together. This is where the foundation of their relationship really starts in this issue, although it wouldn't become obvious until the Kree-Skrull War. 82, Daredevil guest stars as Avengers Assemble on the cover. I used that for a lot of merchandising stuff back in the day. Used to be able to buy stuff with Avengers 82 on it. Here's 83. I have a nice sharp copy of this. This is a key issue, first appearance of Valkyrie, although it actually turns out to be the Enchantress. This issue got a lot of press at the time. I think it might have been written up even in Time magazine. because it's they form a team of women that fight against the male chauvinists and take down the rest of the Avengers. So it's, this is from 1970, so it's kind of a timely thing. 84, Return of Archon, the Enchantress again. Don't remember anything about this story, which is why I missed it when we had the trivia thing on our Avengers forums recently, or Classic Comics forums. 85, one of my favorite stories of all time. Great cover. Love this cover. Here's the first appearance of the Squadron Supreme. The cover says that it's the return of the Squadron Sinister, but it's actually the Squadron Supreme. The Avengers cross over into the Squadron Supreme universe. Same time these came out was Justice League of America 87, I want to say. Might have been 89. Anyway, introducing a version of the Avengers in that world that cross over and meet the Justice League. So this time, their little faux crossover actually came off. Here's 87, key issue, origin of the Black Panther revealed for the first time. Nice yellow cover. My copy's only mid-grade, but it's a nice book. Avengers 88, this is a crossover with the Hulk, so right off the bat, I think it sucks because I hate the Hulk. I do have the other half, the Hulk issue, somewhere in one of my crossover boxes, but less said the better. Alright, here's the beginning of probably the most famous Avengers storyline of all time, the Kree-Skrull War. People that aren't, Avengers fans but have just heard about it probably don't realize it actually started as early as 89, because you associate Neil Adams with the story, but he only actually did half of the issues. There were several issues that before it drawn by Sal Buscema. Like the gradients, the coloring on that one. Here's 91. This 89 to 91 kind of sets the stage for the Kree-Skrull War, but it's all taking place on Earth. The main action hasn't really started yet. And again, most of these copies that I bought from that guy in Boston back in the mid-80s. Here's a nice copy of 92. Okay, here's a Neil Adams cover. He did not do the interior. This is the last 15-cent issue before they popped it up to the frame books for the 10th anniversary. Here's what most people think of as the beginning of the Kree-Skrull War, even though it's already been going on for several issues. Again, this is November 1971. It's the 10th anniversary of Marvel, hence the giant size. The frame book. This is a classic issue where Neil Adams did the art inside, and Ant-Man travels inside the Vision to fix him. Return of the original Avengers, who most of them have only been guest stars for the last several years on the title. So having Thor, Iron Man, Captain America back, it's a big deal. Here's 94. They revert back to normal size. DC had also jumped to 25 cents at the same time, so Marvel thought they could sort of pull a little fast one by jumping back to 20 cents, and it worked. DC sales tanked because all the kids would rather get extra comics. If you could spend 20 cents for a comic, why spend 25? It's a really nice copy of 95 here. This is a random, right in the middle of the Kree-Skrull War, all of a sudden the Inhumans show up. Why? Because the Inhumans series got canceled with Amazing Adventures number 10, and Roy Thomas, being the continuity nerd that he is, he decided, well, we've got to tie up that storyline somewhere, so let's just ram it randomly right in the middle of this giant Avengers epic. So, whatever. Still has great art from Neil Adams, who was drawing the Inhumans series for a while, so it's not all bad. 96, and this is my favorite cover of the whole series. My copy is signed to me by Neil Adams. It says right here, for Scott, Neil Adams. It's not a real high-grade copy, but obviously it means a lot to me. Just always love this cover. It's been homaged a few times, and for good reason, because it's great. And it's not just the art, the design. With this is the first appearance of the new Avengers logo that most people consider to be the classic Avengers logo. This is the first issue with it. The box, the black background, just the whole 9 yards. Just great favorite cover. This is another great cover. This one's actually by Gil Kane, though. Neil Adams dropped out. It's a little bit of a disappointment when you read it, because this is the last issue of the Kree-Skrull War, and all of a sudden, you know, the art's by someone else. Although I think it's by John Buscema, so it's not exactly like it's a piker. You know, it's really good. Great Gil Kane cover. Unfortunately, I did not have this with me when I met Gil Kane, so I don't have it autographed, which is a disappointment. Typical Roy Thomas ending to this story, where he has Rick Jones summon a bunch of Golden Age superheroes, so it's kind of wish fulfillment, writing himself as Rick Jones. Really nice high-grade copy of 98. This is a 3-part storyline with the return of Hercules. It also, you know, the more I see this cover for 99, the more I like it. I mean, it's really good design, black background. I have a nice copy. It's hard to find black backgrounds. You know, my copy does have some creasing here, but the nice part is it's in this purple or whatever, not in the black, so it really doesn't jump out. So this is a really nice looking copy. Anyway, yeah, this story has the horrible new costume for Hawkeye. I don't know what they were thinking. It's so bad. Finally, here's my copy number 100. Nice mid-grade copy. Barry Smith, amazing art. Features everyone that's ever been an Avenger. Just fantastic art. Story's not all that great. Partially because it has the Hulk in it, and he pretty much ruins everything. But, yeah, there you have it. Avengers 51 to 100. I'll be back with a third installment showing Avengers 101 to 150.